What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Young Equity Chris.
And it's your boy, Young Equity Devin. Let's get it.
We have a very, very, very special episode for you today. A guy I know, somebody I respect a whole lot, that's been in this investing game for a long time, and he has a lot of good knowledge to share with you guys. I'm going to let him introduce himself.
My name is Marcel Threat. It's a pleasure to, be on the show. I'm looking forward to sharing some knowledge with you guys. Let's get to it.
All right, man. Let's start off with who you are. So you're Marcel. Tell everybody what area of the country you live in.
All right, so I'm originally from Sugar Land, Texas. So that's the south side of Houston. Not born, but basically raised. I've been there basically my whole life. I'm an accountant by trade. I do some oil and gas accounting here in the city, downtown area. And I love investing. Been investing for a long time now. And I can't wait, to give y'all some gems and shoot y'all some knowledge.
So where'd you go to undergrad, Marcel?
I went to Abilene Christian. So I actually sort of kind of went to play football initially.
Dope.
And got a scholarship to Central Arkansas. And wasn't really feeling Arkansas too much.
Yeah.
But decided I wanted to come back to Texas. So I ended up going D2 and going to Abilene Christian, where I finished out, got my master's in accounting. Got my undergrad and then got my master's in accounting, and then came back on to Houston to do some oil and gas accounting.
Okay. So you say oil and gas accounting. So I have to ask, because I don't know if you watch every episode of the channel, but we talk about green energy a lot.
Right. right.
So before we get into the formal interview questions, I have to ask: are you bullish or bearish on oil and gas, let's say, in the next 20 years?
Oh, man, you're going to give me 5. So, look, I'll say it like this, okay? So, being an oil and gas man, I think I have a behind the scenes of a lot of things that are going on in the industry. And I don't think things are changing. And I think we can all see that things are changing. We have Tesla. We have a lot of green energy. We have, hydrocarbon, hydro energy. A lot of things other than your temporary or your sort of kind of regular oil and gas, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people don't realize oil and gas goes into a lot more things than just your car. It's like the plastics that you make. There are a lot of things that you create that oil and gas is necessary for. And so do I think it's going to go away in the next year? No. But do I think that things are changing at a drastic pace? Yes, and I feel like as long as they continue to take the cost down, with electricity, and then the green energy, then it might get a little bit more competitive. But as for now, I'm an oil and gas man, so I think that it's going to be around for a lot longer.
Yeah, I've had conversations with people in the industry, and basically they're saying, well, how are you going to power the renewable energies or your electric vehicles without oil and gas? You see what I'm saying? Like, you can't really do solar power because it takes so long to power up the car, or it takes so long to power up the house. Exactly. So you can't just go away from oil and gas all the way. Is that kind of correct?
And that's what I agree with. So that's what I'm sort of kind of saying. Is like, I think with innovation, you really just never know. I think with this year, things have changed drastically, or in the past year, that a lot of these companies that we didn't think would, sort of kind of make monumental steps, sort of kind of, made drastic steps in very short periods of time. But I still think that oil and gas is an essential to what's going around, not just in the U.S., but around the world. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think that people have to realize, what's going on in the world more so than just what's going on in the United States, because we're such a small part of what happens in the entire economy. Now, we're a big piece as far as GDP and as far as what we bring to the table in the world. But there are other countries, for instance, Russia, that literally have to pump oil and gas for cash flow.
Yep. Okay.
So there are other different economical factors that sort of kind of go into the use of oil and gas, to where I don't think it's going to stop tomorrow. But I think that with renewable energy, that there's another player in the game.
Cool. Oh, for sure. I'm no expert in this field. I just from what I know, just kind of being more of an international type of individual, I can say this. Oil and gas plays a big role in the, electrical grid. And I know that, there's big areas of places abroad, like let's say Africa, who don't have a fully fleshed out electrical grid. And it just probably makes more sense for them to start off with their like one of their most abundant resources they have in Africa, which is oil, right? In Nigeria. So to me, I can see where the U.S. may be moving at a certain pace because we're moving from a place of abundance where we can maybe try to move away from oil and gas. But I think in other areas of the world, I think that's going to be a very slow move because what's going to happen is if the more advanced countries start to go over to renewable energy, then those companies who benefit are going to take their innovation technology to these other countries who may be a little behind, and then they'll start using that technology, in their, electrical grid in their vehicles or whatever, right? So there's new economies being built up every day because at the end of the day, people want to make money. And all the countries that have a low GDP, unfortunately, foreign interests are going to try to go and get a piece of that and increase their GDP so they can make more profits. So as you see with most companies, they're global now, Apple, even Tesla, you know what I'm saying? So for that reason, I say oil and gas is not going to die overnight, at least not in my lifetime. I think, any, let's say, chemical engineer major will be fine that's coming out of like my age group. But
you think so?
Yeah, I think they'll be fine.
I don't know, man. I feel like the play right now, I would get into EV or I would definitely get into coding.
Yeah, but I'm on the other side of 30.
I'm bearish.
I'm on the other side of 30. So that's why I'm like, I think they'll be fine.
Well, if you're getting into a career in oil and gas right now and you're an engineer, I would definitely be trying to look into getting involved in something totally different. Like I said, coding is a big deal right now. Machine learning is a big deal. So definitely get involved with something similar to that. But as far as what's going on in other countries, I feel like they're doing these solar farms. And that's kind of where they're going to start leaning towards. I know they had some in UAE or even in Sweden. So that's where I feel like the plays are going to be.
No, for sure. But again, UAE and Sweden are very advanced countries. And as we know, solar energy as it is today is very inefficient, about 30% efficiency. Okay. So, I mean, I get that, but I'm talking about the countries that aren't as ahead. But man, we're getting really off topic.
Right.
So let's rein it back in. So you already talked about your career. So tell us about when you started investing and what kind of motivated you to go into investing.
So my parents were a big inspiration to my investment background. My dad's an accountant as well. So is my mom. We're a family of accountants, uncles accountants as well. So we just sort of kind of like number crunching. My dad's a big investor. He used to have sort of kind of lessons at the house. Bring people from the church. And he would have these investment classes. A buddy of his named Wesley would have these investment classes. And my mom was fortunate enough to work from the house or work from home mom, homemaker. And so she would be at the house all day. And so she was like, I got to find something to do. And so my dad was like, well, you should, start trading stocks. That's what I'm doing. And so I would be like, well, Mom, what are you doing all day? Like, what is it you're sitting in the office all day doing, on this computer? And she's like, oh, I'm trading stocks. And so, that's what kind of piqued my interest. But it wasn't really until college, I think, where I was like, hey, I can really make this big. Like, this could be another big source of income for me.
Yeah.
And so that's my freshman year in college is when I sort of kind of took the reins from my parents. They were sort of kind of babying me through the process. And I, invested a lot of money into my own portfolios and sort of kind of started building from there. And I've been building ever since. And so I guess that was 2010-ish that I really sort of kind of took the reins in myself and started building my own portfolio.
So I'm going to be honest with you, man. You're the only person I've heard in life with that story. I've never heard anybody that said, my mom and dad taught me stocks. I grew up in a single parent family situation, and my mom's an accountant. She did very well, but she never invested in stocks. And so it's kind of crazy to think that 2-parent home in our community. I mean, that's commendable, man.
Yeah. Well,
so, but yeah, that's pretty dope. So, what are some of the lessons that your family taught you during that time?
One of the most important lessons is I learned is never panic, right?
Okay.
So, because when this is your money at the end of the day, this is the money that you work hard for. This is the money that you go to. Most people, they start investing with the money that they've earned via a job, via maybe an inheritance or some money, in your bank account. So it's money that, that you have some sweat equity, right? So nobody really wants to lose it, right? They always sort of kind of think that, hey, I'm getting into something and I gotta be getting into something to where I can, make money off what I already have. That's not always the game with the stock market, right? You can't time the stock market. And when you get your emotions caught up, you tend to make irrational decisions. So the important thing that I learned was learning my temperament early on.
Okay.
And so I know we sort of kind of spoke earlier. I'm not the guy that likes to lose a lot of money at one time. So I'm not a big time spec investor. So I tend to stick towards more quality stocks that have great fundamentals, stocks that have great executive boards, stocks that have a great track record of performing, beating earnings estimates quarter after quarter after quarter, year after year, growth, things of that nature. So do I miss out on some of the big plays that happen? Yes, but I feel like I don't lose a lot of money because of that.
Okay. Solid.
That makes sense. And I can definitely say, your time in the market beats anybody time in the market.
For sure.
You can give me the best timer right now. You could be a clairvoyant and tell me this day in 2021, I'm going to tell you the bottom and buy it. And I still won't be able to catch, somebody like yourself that's been in the market over 10 years. So that's great, man. So that brings me actually into my next question. Why do you think other people should invest?
The main reason is because you're not going to get rich working a job, right?
Facts.
You get rich with equity. And I tell people that all the time. They're like, well, you see these CEOs with, $1 million compensation packages, $1 million salaries. And I'm like, well, I guarantee if you were to look at how much money they have in equity, it far outweighs their salary, right? Because, for example, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, a lot of these guys that you see, the richest men in the world, now just recently, Elon Musk, right?
Over 100 of, no, I think if he's worth 122, I believe 118.
Now I would
Tesla
have
stock or something like that.
So I would have to look because I know it's fallen a little bit over the last couple of weeks, but still, a couple of weeks ago, he was the richest man in the world, and it wasn't because of his salary.
Nope. Right.
It was because of his equity in Tesla in the company, right? So that's why I feel like when you buy into stock, you buy into a piece of a business, right? And so when you own a piece of that business, they have a due diligence to want to be better, right? So you invest in your money into a company that has a due diligence to continue to create a return on equity for you, right? So I feel like that's the only way to make your money work for itself, right? When you can go to sleep, know that there's a CEO out there that's trying to raise his sales, that's trying to raise his earnings per share, that's trying to raise his margins, and that's trying to beat all the other competitors. I'm okay putting my money with that guy, right? As long as I do the homework and make sure that the thesis is still in line when I originally invested up until the point where I still have my investment in that company.
So with that being said, what do you have in your portfolio today? Do you still have some of the plays that you invested in 15 years ago?
I do.
Okay. What do you have in your portfolio?
One that I have, my oldest stock that I have is Applied Materials.
Okay.
So I don't know, a semiconductor company. They sort of kind of trade in tandem with, I know y'all just did a series on NVIDIA not long ago. So, sort of kind of in a similar vein, as well as, so for those that don't know, semiconductors are the things that go, like the chip components that go into your phone, your gaming system, things of that nature that basically power the entire system, right? So your phone won't work without it and things of that nature. So people don't really even understand how important, and how much money on the margins that these components make. But that was an early one that actually my dad told me about, because what they used to do is they used to split over and over again, right? And, we're familiar with the Apple split that happened not too long ago, and as well as Tesla split. What happens when stocks tend to split is they tend to go right back up, right? So you basically, they used to do these 2-for-1 splits. So you double your shares and the stock would run right back up. They split again. So it was a way sort of kind of to me to create equity early on. And the stock was relatively cheap. I was like, hey, this is not a bad investment. So Apple, of course, I've held on to that one for a while. Microsoft, Amazon. I was a big FANG investor back in the day, so I have a lot of those stocks still. Stocks that continue to bring you money, you don't sell your winners, is what I was always told. You continue to reinvest in your winners. You sell your losers. So those are the ones that I continue to put money into over and over again.
Okay. So you told us basically about your best stock investments now. So tell us about just one that you can remember your worst investment.
Wow. So,
because I can tell you mine.
I mean, yeah, I'll say, oh man, I've had a couple, and I would really say anything that I bought at the very top. Like, so I don't tend to buy. I'm a buy low, sell high kind of guy.
Yeah.
Okay. But sometimes you get a little greedy.
Yep.
And you buy things where you shouldn't because the market's hot, and so I'd probably say.
Well, while you're thinking, AMC was one of mine.
Yes, I mean that's tough. I always stayed away from AMC.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think of and a lot of stocks that I lose money in, I'll buy them back to make my money back.
Yeah.
And so those sort of kind of net out. And so I'm trying to think of one that I took a huge loss in, and I was like, that one did. Tilray.
Okay.
That was a spec. I took a loss in Tilray. That one was a big spec play that was running, and I bought in way too high, thinking that I was gonna catch the ride, and woke up one morning, saw a lot of red, and thought quickly like this is never gonna recover. But and that was a panic decision. Sometimes you don't make the best decisions when you're emotional, and so but it was a play that I got in because of the potential of the industry. And it didn't really didn't go too well. I think it's still sort of kind of trading, next to nothing compared to where it was, not too long ago. So I lost a lot of money on that one, but learn your lesson.
So you mentioned spec plays. Do you have any spec plays that you're eyeing or that's on your watch list right now?
I had a couple. So I got one.
Because Tilray was definitely one of my.
But see, those are sort of kind of tough. I mean, I was in Splunk. That's not really a spec. I mean, I don't really invest in the cheaper stocks. Like if it's under $100, I sort of kind of a little bit more. I invest in the stocks that sort of kind of have a little bit more track record.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess even a firm might be one. That I'm in a firm right now, so that's sort of kind of that's. I mean, if you do stock X or if you do GOAT, you might be familiar with a firm.
I've used a firm before.
That might be a spec play because it's a brand new. These IPOs. I guess they're not really IPOs, but a lot of these companies are going public. And I think that's sort of kind of oversaturating the market. So that's why I sort of kind of stay away from the spec plays right now because everybody's doing the SPAC.
Right.
And I don't think that the fundamentals are there because you don't have to go through the rigorous process as you would doing an IPO process. Yeah. And so I think a lot of these companies that don't, do well in a year time are going to vanish. So I'm sort of kind of staying away from a lot of the SPACs. But a firm is one. What's some other?
What about Neo?
I didn't touch Neo. I know it popped, but I know it's a EV play, right? And so it's I'm oil guy, so I'm holding. But I mean, you can make money. I'm not saying that you can't make money in them, but I tend to sort of kind of shy away from the specs.
Okay. Man. My play that I lost on most on, and I cut my losses was XPEV. I knew not to buy it high. Then a guy in my group was like, hey, man, let's just get in all three of these China EV plays. One's bound to blow in a year. And I couldn't hold it for a year because the losses were so massive. And I was just making money on so many other plays. This was like during the stock trade hype of late 2020. I was like, man, I'm just going to sell this and make my money back that I lost, which I did in the end. So I think I ended up breaking even by... I took that money and put it in another play. I don't remember which play, but I lost a lot of money with XPEV, so I will never invest in China EVs, except maybe Neo, but XPEV, Li Auto, I'm good on those.
Yeah.
Never again.
Yeah, my play was, like I said, AMC. I really didn't lose no money on AMC, but I didn't make it. So, I had a 60% gain. I had made like $7K in a day, and then I lost that $7K the next day. You know what I'm saying?
That's kind of how it goes. You know, it's tough. It's tough.
Hey man, diamond hands, right?
Yeah, I mean, but you know, it's. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I was saying earlier about the emotion that's attached to it. It's like, you know, sometimes you don't know how long it's gonna fall, right? So sometimes it's better to cut your losses than you know, especially when you don't know if it's gonna come back. You know, great stocks always come back, but you know, spec plays maybe sometimes don't. So.
That's right.
That's true. Okay, man. Well, that pretty much sums up our interview, man. We appreciate you coming on the show, talking to everybody about investing. You're going to jump in with us on a few topics this week as well, so he will be in a few more videos. Thank you guys for checking it out. Please like, share this video, because this man took time out of his day to come see us to bless y'all with some knowledge. Again, this is Young Equity Chris.
And it's your boy, Young Equity Devin. Let's get it.